There comes a point in every life when you have to ask yourself, am I living to protect what little I have, or am I willing to risk everything for the chance to become who I'm capable of becoming? Most people never ask this question. They keep their dreams small, their ambitions in check, and their days safe like a ship that never leaves the harbor. And while a ship in the harbor may look secure, that's not what ships are built for. Ships are made to set out, to brave the open sea, to discover new shores. But too many people become caretakers of their own comfort, their own reputation, and their own tiny sense of security, all the while missing out on the grand adventure they were born for. Let me put it to you plain. The greatest loss in life is not failure. It's not even rejection. The greatest loss is what you never try, the phone call you never make, the risk you never take, the idea you never build, because you were too busy protecting what you thought you could not afford to lose. Most people are more afraid of loss than they are excited by the prospect of gain. And that, my friend, is how you get to the end of your days, surrounded by what's left regret. Not for what you did, but for what you never had the courage to do. When you act like you have nothing to lose, something powerful happens. Your posture changes. Your questions get bigger. Your words become bolder. The world starts to respond to your energy in a way it never did before, because you're no longer playing from the back foot. You're no longer hedging your bets or waiting for perfect timing. Instead, you're leaning into life with everything you've got, understanding that safety is often the costliest trap of all. I know what it's like to cling to what you have to play it safe, to protect your reputation, to avoid rocking the boat. I've done it myself. I've watched as weeks and months slip by, as I hesitated to make a call or take a stand because I didn't want to risk losing the little bit of certainty I had built up. But certainty is not the goal. Expansion is. Growth is. Becoming is. And that only happens when you're willing to let go of the small in order to reach for the great. So today, I want you to ask yourself, what would you do differently if you had nothing left to lose? What decisions would you make if you weren't afraid of being judged, of losing comfort, of starting over? Where would you go? What would you build? Who would you become? Because all the greatest opportunities are waiting just beyond the boundaries of your comfort zone, just past the point where you usually stop. There's a law at work here, a principle as old as time. The more you cling to safety, the more you limit your life. The more you act from boldness, the more the world opens up for you. And it's not reckless risk I'm talking about. It's principled courage, the kind that moves you out of the harbor and into the current of your own potential. Let's open up that law. Let's look at how this principle works and why most people live their whole lives on the dock, never understanding what they've lost, simply because they never dared to act like they had nothing to lose. There's a law I've learned after decades of watching people win and watching people lose. It's not written in any textbook, but you can see it written all over the lives of those who grow and those who stall. I call it the law of nothing to lose. Here's what it says. Playing not to lose almost guarantees you will lose. But playing to win, Nevin, if you risk, everything creates a field of possibility where gain becomes not only likely, but inevitable. Let's break that down. When you live your life in a posture of self-preservation, when every move is about keeping what you have, your world shrinks. You become smaller, more cautious, less creative. You hesitate to speak your mind, to try new things, to reach out to new people. Every action is filtered through the lens of, what if it goes wrong? And so you retreat, you hedge, you plan for comfort, not for greatness. And the tragedy is, you don't just avoid loss, you avoid gain. You don't just sidestep pain, you sidestep growth. You trade your birthright for a little security. And in the end, that security turns out to be a cage. But the law of nothing to lose works in the opposite direction. When you stop living to protect and start living to express, when you realize that you can lose money, you can lose reputation, you can lose comfort, and still be you, then you unlock a deeper current of energy. You find out that boldness compounds. The person who steps forward, who asks, who moves, who risks 7 in the face of uncertainty, starts to accumulate resources, relationships, opportunities, and most of all, self-respect. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to throw wisdom out the window. Principle-driven risk is not recklessness. The law of nothing to lose is not about burning bridges for the thrill of it, or tossing away hard-earned resources on a reckless bet. It's about acting from a place of principle, not from a place of fear. When you know what you stand for, when you're clear on your values and your vision, you realize that almost nothing the world can take from you is as valuable as what you gain from becoming bold, resourceful, and fully engaged. And let me share something I've observed. Security is one of the great illusions. We think if we just stack up enough in the bank, if we just keep our head down at work, if we just avoid rocking the boat, we'll be safe. But safety is temporary and often comes at the cost of impact, growth, and meaning. No one at the end of their life says, I wish I had played it safer. They say, I wish I had gone all in. I wish I'd spoken up, taken the trip, asked the question, started the business, written the book, reached out to that person. When you act like you have nothing to lose, you're free to play to win, not just to avoid losing. You're free to reach out instead of retreat, to create instead of copy, to risk failure, because you know that's the only path to success. That is how empires are built, how fortunes are made, how legacies are written. Not by standing on the dock and protecting your spot in the lineup, but by launching into the deep. So here's my challenge to you. What are you still protecting that is keeping you from your next level? Where are you playing not to lose, when you could be playing to win? What part of your life is lived in the shadow of fear instead of the light of purpose? As we go deeper, let's bust a few myths that keep people anchored to the dock. Because until you clear up the misconceptions about boldness and risk, you'll always settle for less than you could have and less than you are. Let's clear the fog and give you the permission you need to act. Let's clear the air, because there are a few myths that keep people tied to the dock, believing that boldness is the same as recklessness. I can't count how many times I've heard someone say, Jim, if I acted like I had nothing to lose, I'd ruin everything I've worked for. But that's not boldness, that's just swinging in the dark. The truth is, most people are more reckless in their hesitation than in their action. Every day they hold back. Every day they let fear drive. Every day they wait for certainty. They risk far more than they would by stepping out in faith and principle. Here's myth number one. Boldness equals danger. But let me tell you, the most dangerous place in life is not out there on the field taking a swing at sitting on the bench watching opportunity pass you by. The world belongs to those who move, who ask, who build, who reach. The timid may avoid a few bruises, but they also avoid every breakthrough. Principle-driven boldness is measured. It's not about running blindly into traffic. It's about knowing your values, setting your aim, and then refusing to let the fear of loss stop you from taking your shot. Myth number two, failure is fatal. I've failed more times than I can count. Lost money, lost opportunities, lost my way. But looking back, every failure paid tuition for a greater lesson. Every stumble became a stepping stone. The only failure that really hurts is the one where you never tried, where you never learned, never grew, never proved to yourself what you're capable of. The bold don't see failure as the end. They see it as feedback, as course correction, as tuition paid on the path to wisdom. And then there's the third myth. Security is a virtue. Let's be honest. Security is a useful pursuit for children, but as adults, too much focus on safety breeds stagnation. Security is a trap if it becomes your highest aim. It lulls you into maintenance mode, where the greatest threat is not what you lose, but what you never build. The person who spends their energy securing the castle walls may never venture out and build something new. There's a fine line between prudence and paralysis. Boldness real. Principle-based boldness is about stepping out from behind the walls with intention, not abandoning wisdom. Let me be clear. Acting like you have nothing to lose is not about burning it all down. It's about burning away hesitation, burning away the fear of embarrassment, the fear of missing out, the fear of falling behind. It's about showing up with everything you are, using every resource you have, and trusting that growth and opportunity come only to those who dare to move before conditions are perfect. So if you've been taught that risk is for the reckless and safety is for the wise, it's time to rewrite that script. The wisest move is often the boldest move when it is grounded in purpose, in vision, in principle. The greatest risk is waiting for the world to tell you you're ready, when what you really need is to give yourself permission. Now, let me tell you a story of time in my own life when I stopped protecting what little I had and started living like I had everything to gain. Because until you see what's possible when you go all in, you'll keep mistaking caution for character and protection for progress. Let's move into the story that changed it all for me and might just change it for you. I remember a season in my life when I was playing it safe. I was holding on tight to the little bit of progress I'd made, guarding it like a treasure chest, afraid that one wrong move would send me back to the beginning. But you know what happened? Nothing. Nothing new, nothing exciting, nothing truly rewarding. Life started to feel like a game of not losing instead of a pursuit of winning. I was protecting, but I wasn't expanding. My world got smaller. The clock kept ticking, but I was stuck busy but not building. Then I reached a crossroads. I had an opportunity in front of me that scared me to death. It was a speaking engagement in a city where I knew nobody, with a topic I'd never spoken on in public for an audience that could open doors I had only dreamed of. Every instinct said, play it safe. Wait until you're more ready, more confident, more experienced. But something inside me whispered, if not now, when? I realized that if I kept living for security, I'd never know what I was truly capable of. That night, I decided to go all in. I prepared like my future depended on it, because it did. I invested time, energy, and a chunk of savings I could hardly spare. I told myself, if I fail, I'll learn. But if I succeed, I'll never forgive myself for not trying sooner. I took the stage with nerves, shaking my hands, but also with a heart open wide. I poured everything I had into that moment. No holding back. No self-preservation. Just full commitment to the chance in front of me. You know what happened? I grew. I gained respect from others. Yes, but more importantly from myself. I saw doors open, not because I was the most talented or experienced, but because I was willing to go first, to risk rejection, to bet on growth. I realized that the greatest rewards in life come not to those who tiptoe, but to those who move with conviction when nothing is certain and everything is possible. Even when the outcome is unclear, acting boldly tells the world and yourself that you are no longer satisfied with small living. That experience became a turning point. It taught me that the pain of playing small lasts far longer than the pain of failing in the pursuit of something bigger. I discovered a well of resourcefulness, energy, and creativity that had been dormant while I was focused on playing defense. And here's the real win. Every bold step makes the next one a little easier. You build a track record of courage that compounds over time, not only in results, but in your sense of identity. I stopped asking, will I lose what I have? And started asking, how much more could I gain if I gave my best every time? Now, the law was clear. What you protect shrinks, but what you risk for the sake of growth multiplies. Every time I moved forward with nothing to lose, I found I had more to give and more to receive. That's a principle you can build your life on. So how do you take this story and turn it into your own daily practice? How do you bring that boldness, that law, into your habits, your relationships, your work starting today? Let's talk about 5 ways to live like you have nothing to lose, no matter what you're facing, and how that single shift can open more doors than years of waiting ever could. Let's get practical. You don't need a crisis to start acting like you have nothing to lose. You need a new standard. When you wake up each morning, you have 2 choices. Let the day happen to you, or happen to the day. Living like you have nothing to lose is not an event. It's a series of disciplined, intentional choices practiced until they become your character. Here are 5 practical ways to put this law to work, starting now. 1. Set daily non-negotiables that stretch you. Every morning, write down one action that is just outside your comfort zone, something that will require courage, not just routine. Maybe it's making a difficult phone call, sending a proposal, sharing your real opinion, or asking for feedback from someone you respect. The point isn't the scale, it's the stretch. When you stretch, you grow. And growth is never found inside comfort. The wealthy, the respected, the fulfilled, these are the people who practice stretching daily, not occasionally. 2, practice visible courage. Ask, speak, lead. Too many people wait for someone to invite them to the front of the line, to the big project, to leadership. But opportunity rarely sends an invitation. It rewards those who raise their hand. Every day, find one chance to speak up, to ask a question in public, to suggest a new idea, or to lead when no one else volunteers. Even if your voice shakes, use it. The world listens to those who act like they have something to say. Courage is contagious, and leadership is a muscle that grows with practice. 3. Invest without waiting for guarantees. Most people want certainty before they commit, but waiting for all the lights to turn green is how you end up waiting your whole life. Take action before every variable is clear. Invest your time, your energy, your heart. That might mean joining a new group before you feel ready, starting a project before you know how it will end, or putting money behind your idea when it feels scary. The wealthy become wealthy by investing before results are guaranteed, not after. 4. Burn the backup plan. Commit fully. One of the biggest enemies of progress is the secret escape route backup plan you keep just in case you want to quit. But commitment is the bridge that turns intention into reality. This doesn't mean acting recklessly, but it does mean choosing your direction and removing the easy exits. Give your new habit, your relationship, your business, or your vision a season where you are all in, no hedging, no halfway, no looking over your shoulder. People respect and reward full commitment. 5. Make reflection your safety net, not hesitation. You need a safety net in life, but most people confuse hesitation with wisdom. Instead, build a habit of daily reflection. At the end of each day, ask yourself, where did I hold back today? Where did I step up? Write it down. Use what you learned to make tomorrow's actions bolder, sharper, and more aligned with your highest vision. When you reflect with honesty, you build wisdom. When you hesitate out of fear, you build regret. Start with these 5 disciplines. None are reckless. All are bold. You'll be amazed at how quickly your life expands when you stop protecting what you have and start leveraging what you can become. The universe has a way of rewarding those who move with courage and all, because it's magic, but because movement attracts opportunity. When you live like you have nothing to lose, you radiate confidence. You invite new relationships. You open doors that stay shut for the timid. The world begins to sense that you're not waiting for permission, you're giving it to yourself. Let's turn this into a challenge, a code for your daily living. Because principles, when practiced, become your story. Let's set the standard for the next 30 days and see what happens when you really act like you have nothing to lose. Let's call you up to your next level. Transition. I'm about to give you a daily challenge, the nothing to lose challenge that can reshape your self-respect, your results, and your life. Are you ready to step out of the harbor and set sail for good? Let's build your new code. Now it's time to move from principle to practice. This is where philosophy meets action and theory turns to transformation. I'm inviting you to take on the nothing to lose challenge, a commitment to live 30 days as if your greatest regrets aren't behind you, but waiting if you play small from here on out. Here's how it works. For the next 30 days, do one thing every day that scares you just a bit, that stretches you just enough to feel growth. It doesn't have to be a leap each time. Sometimes all it takes is a single step in the direction you've been resisting. Each morning, start with a journal prompt. What would the person I want to become do today if nothing held him back? Don't overthink it. Just write down the first action that comes to mind. Then, before the day is out, do it. Maybe it's pitching your service to a stranger, asking for honest feedback from a peer, applying for a role that feels above your station, or saying no to a comfort that's been costing you. The act itself is less important than the fact you acted. Over 30 days, these little acts of courage stack up, building not just momentum, but a new self-image rooted in initiative, not in hesitation. At the end of each day, take 5 minutes to review. Ask yourself, did I stretch today? Did I protect comfort? Or did I pursue possibility? Write a sentence or two about what happened and what you learned. This simple ritual is your safety net. It will help you learn faster and act bolder each day. Over the next month, you'll watch fear turn into feedback and hesitation turn into habit. If you're feeling doubt, remember, boldness is not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important. And if you find yourself slipping, don't beat yourself up, just get back to the next stretch. You'll find that the more you practice, the more your world expands, and so does your confidence. By the end of the 30 days, you'll be shocked at the new opportunities, relationships, and insights that have appeared, not because the world changed, but because you did. And when the challenge is over, don't stop. By then, acting with nothing to lose will have become a habitat, part of your identity. That's how transformation sticks. Not in grand declarations, but in small, repeated acts of boldness that prove to yourself and to the world that you're done waiting, done shrinking, done settling for less than you're capable of. Transition. Let's close strong. Let's seal this challenge with the truth. The greatest loss is never daring, never discovering, never stepping into the life, waiting just outside the harbor of your comfort. Let's leave you with a final charge to live bold and build a legacy worth remembering. So here's my final charge to you from one builder to another. Your life will expand only as far as your boldness allows. The greatest risk is not that you'll lose what you have, but that you'll never discover what was possible because you never left the harbor. You were made for open water. You were designed to set sail, to feel the wind in your face, to pursue something so meaningful that fear becomes just a milestone, not a stop sign. Growth and regret cannot share the same room. One will always drive the other out. When you act like you have nothing to lose, you give yourself permission to play at full volume, to love fully, to build bravely, to lead with your whole heart. You trade the small safety of comfort for the wide horizon of opportunity. And yes, you might stumble. Yes, you might feel exposed. But you'll know you're alive, and the world will respond in kind, not to your perfection, but to your presence and your courage. I want you to make it real. In the comments right now, write your first bold act for tomorrow. I'm done living in the harbor. I'm setting sail. Let that be your anchor line, the commitment you make not just to me, but to yourself and to your future. There are two kinds of lives, the life of maintenance and the life of movement. One shrinks with every year, grows heavier with regret, and wonders, what if? The other expands, sometimes awkwardly, sometimes painfully, but always toward more meaning, more connection, more possibility. So, what will it be for you? Are you ready to set sail? Because life's greatest rewards the wealth, the relationships, the growth, the impact tear reserved for those who act with nothing to lose and everything to gain. Don't wait for the world to give you a sign. You are the sign. You are the ship. Set sail.